sitting underneath, as that was a telegraphed throw. As they will go to Bigsby, and the lane just opened up for him. Keep with the same look, though Chuba Hubbard down the middle, he slices. As it's gonna be Biggs versus Biggs, ETN to that side, and Barry will pound the rock to make some plays. Match that with a blind side smacking down Trevor Lawrence. Fantastic. Put it across the middle, and the rookie. They go right down the middle, and D-set. Get a quick blitz, and it gets picked off. It's St. Juiced. Super Bowl champions, the Lombardi Trophy, as Bryce Young and his team celebrate the win. But our story with the Carolina Panthers does not end here. Super Bowl champions, but we've got time before the next Madden, as it's expected to come out. I want to say it's around mid to early August, so we have plenty of months to get through at least one title defense season and get through a multi-year sim movie, if you will. But even then, we might have time for maybe 2 full seasons. We'll be playing it by ear, but you could definitely expect at least one more full season. But where we begin today is a quick recap of the ending to our season 4, going over a couple things that we went over at the end of the last episode for those who missed it. Now, we unfortunately did not do extremely well when it came to the yearly awards. We had no player in the running for MVP, and we were way down here at 9 for Coach of the Year, despite a really poor start to the season due to a lot of injuries, stockpiling, fighting through that, almost winning the division, and then making it to the playoffs and winning the Super Bowl. Steve Smith Sr. was way down here. But unfortunately, that wouldn't really be the end of it for us. Looking at Offensive and Defensive Player of the Year, we weren't really anywhere close. We did have Greg Newsome down at 7 for Defensive Player of the Year. Offensive Rookie did not go to Madison Boston. We took a look at his stats. Dude had nearly 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns, and I want to say 56 grabs. He was not the Rookie of the Year, so we're going to have to check Garrison Hurst's stats to see if we got the raw end of the stick. As for Defensive Rookie, I don't really think we had anyone besides Edwards, and he only played for half the year. While he did play well, he didn't do anything crazy. Best Quarterback, unfortunately, Bryce Young, he had a lot of turnover, so he wasn't in the running. Best Running Back. Do you guys see Chuba Hubbard anywhere up top? No, he's down at 7, despite being an integral part of our team and consistently racking up a lot of yards and a lot of big plays. Best Receiver, no one in the running for us. O-line, we had one guy in Max Clifton, which I thought was strange because he missed about half the season due to injuries, but at least he's in the running higher than some of the other players. As for Best D-line, yeah, we had no one. Best Linebacker, we did have Stockton at 5, but for some reason, we did not have Hodgins on this list, despite him putting up arguably a better season than Stockton. We did, however, take home 2 awards. Greg Newsome II was the best DB with 9 interceptions this year, and best kicker went to Cole Ford, who is unanimously the best kicker in the league. And of course, the big storyline throughout the postseason was Joel Petonio retiring, and I think a good portion of our success in the postseason was due to him. We continually got the wins, and with each win, we got more and more morale, which just continued to raise everyone's ratings, and I contribute that very largely to us winning the Super Bowl here in Season 4. But our first real bit of off-season work comes with our signings. And we have a whole lot of cap space, especially for a team that just came off a Super Bowl win, though we have some work to do. Definitely want to lock down Ekwonu. That is for sure. I am perfectly happy with a 4-year deal. He has some interest. Just level up those numbers a little bit, and we already got our first signing. Now, this is one I hinted at the end of our last episode. Laviska Shenault Jr., one of our last remaining players from the original squad, where we only have 4, all of which are on offense. Now, Shenault is 28. He's going to be in his regression years from here on out. And I just want something a little different for our slot receiver. At times he made some great plays for us, but he lacked that big play ability. That's something our receiver group really quite hasn't had throughout our time here. Again, despite just winning the Super Bowl, we've made some big plays downfield, but that guy underneath, we just really haven't had. We've had to rely on Chuba Hubbard for that. And I think we're going to move on from Laviska Shenault. I want someone with a little bit more athleticism, make some moves in open field, and that's just not him. Now, another guy I want to move on from for now, we'll see what all is available in open free agency, is going to be George Shepard. He has some okay ratings. He's getting a lot of morale boost right now, +6 to his overall. But he has some raw ability that kind of aligns with what I want from our free safety with our defensive scheme. But he just doesn't do anything crazy. He's just a very average player who occasionally will make a tackle and occasionally break up a pass, but he doesn't make the big plays. So for now, again, we're going to be moving on from George Shepard. Maybe we end up bringing him back. We will see. Jamie Robinson, same kind of thing. He's been a backup for us. He doesn't have any interest. I get it. Move on. Go try to find a starting spot somewhere else. Joseph Osai, he was a really solid depth guy. We had to bring him in due to injuries, and when he came in, played pretty well. So he has some interest here. We're going to lower the offer a little bit. I just like some even numbers here. And by that, I mean 0s and 5s. So we're going to offer this. I still think he might take it, and indeed he will. Now, another guy, depth guy, but has been here since our first draft, Jerome Sweat. He's a backup kind of guy, 26 years old. But he truly is just a backup run stopper. And having him as well as Palmer, who I think was just a rookie in the last season, I think those two kind of fill out the depth for the DT spot. He's been really solid when given opportunity, and I think because of that, he deserves a second contract. Match that up with him having interest. I think that works out pretty well here. We'll lower the salary by 1, bump up the bonus a little bit. It'll be 2 years, $6.5 million per season, and that will keep him around. Now for Walker Little, originally a starter for us at the beginning of the season, though he got injured as well as Clifton. We then had to make a trade for Richards, and I think Richards greatly outperformed Walker and is a better scheme fit for us, so we will be moving on from Walker Little. DJ Johnson, a depth edge rusher for us that just never performed, we'll be moving on from him. Grover Stewart, he's going to continue to regress each and every year. He was okay this year, nothing splashy. I want to see what all of our options are, so we're going to move on from Grover Stewart for now. Now, Gerald Hunter was someone that I want to say we signed off of a practice squad, and he very much fits the scheme of a free safety for us. A little bit light on the speed and acceleration, but the zone coverage, that was what I was looking for. I would be up for keeping him around for another couple seasons, seeing what he could do, and he does have some interest. So again, we're gonna even this up for my numbers, make it a 2-year, $2.5 million per season, and he'll stick around. Now for Ben Harden, never really got to see him play much. We've developed him, and now he might go find a starting spot somewhere else. JJ Sheldon, depth guy. I think we could find someone of similar caliber, maybe after the draft or even in the draft. Shakir Sharpton, he's a depth middle linebacker for us. And at 22 years old, 68 overall, probably wouldn't be a bad guy to keep around. I want to say was signed from our practice squad or was just a UDFA. He has some pretty intriguing ratings, zone coverage sitting at a pretty good spot, block shed as well. Injuries happen, Sharpton would be a good guy to keep around. So let's offer him a deal as well. Bump down those numbers, bump up the bonus, 2-year deal, and he does not quite like that offer. Now for Zach Lippett, one of our backup offensive linemen. We will see he's 25 years old now, so only has a couple more years to grow. Never going to be a starter. He's going to be a depth guy for his career, at least for us. He might find a starting spot elsewhere where we will give him that opportunity. Paul Holyman, another depth linebacker for us. Again, we will see what other options we have. We find those kind of guys quite often as UDFAs. Joshua Dobbs came in, played a couple games for us due to injury. He can move on. Brandon Cooks will move on from as well. He really played, like, I think 4 snaps for us. Deion Jones was a mentor for our linebackers this year. We'll move on. Andrew Wiley, another guy we had to bring in for injury, we'll be moving on from. And Mitch Wishnowsky will be moving on from as well. So now when it comes to player signings, open free agency, where do we need to go? Well, we are set at quarterback. We have our starter, we have our backup, we have a practice squad guy. Running back, we are really good there. I like all of our running backs. We're good at fullback. Receiver, we could look for an opportunity for someone at slot, though this does open up that said opportunity for Taylor Murray. I can't remember if he was a practice squad guy where we got him, but he has that explosiveness, that agility we were looking for. Match that with a little bit of some deep and short route running, not much across the middle. That's going to be one of his weak spots. Hands are okay. He has some good spec catch, but he might drop a couple that he shouldn't. Past Murray, we really just have some depth, and honestly, it's older depth. All of these guys at the bottom, all 24 years old. They only have a few more years to get better, and they are fighting for a spot on the roster. Tight ends, we have Madison Boston. Did he end up getting any dev trait boost at all? No. That is how unfortunate, and I forgot to go look at the other guy's stats, so we got to go check Garrison's stats before I forget. Now, Garrison Hurst was the quarterback of the Packers, and he threw for 3,100 yards, 30 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, completing 62% of his throws. I mean, the numbers aren't bad at all for a rookie. Going 3-to-1 on the touchdown to turnover ratio. Did he do much rushing at all? He actually did run a good fair bit. So I could understand why Boston might have come in second. I just think Boston needed a little something there. I mean, a fantastic rookie year. But that does mean he's going to stick at a star dev, unfortunately not going up to that superstar, which I feel like he rightfully deserves. Jordan Thomas still our backup there with Callaway, and then we also had on the practice squad James Walden. He might be headed back there. We'll see about him. As for offensive line, we've got Aquanu, we've got Richards. We do need a new center. Antonio obviously retired. At right guard, we got Clifton. He's always injury prone. I would like to have a doable backup who could step in and start if need be. And then we have Jedrick Wills, who had a much better season this year rather than his first year with us. So we need a starting center and we need a serviceable backup. As for the defensive line, I feel like we're probably gonna be pretty good here. Victor Dimukeji we have for another season, and he's someone we might look to trade because he actually did extremely well with his opportunities last year, racking up just about as many sacks as McCullough with far less snaps. But we're going to stick with McCullough, especially after such a good sophomore campaign. Fitzgerald, maybe someone we could also look to trade away. He hasn't done much for us. Right end, we have Owe, just signed Osai to be that primary backup. And then we had another guy from the practice squad in Kyle Donaghy. We will see if he ends up doing anything. Now, DT, this is where I would love to find someone in the draft to be that main guy for the future. We've had James Castaneda. He's a run stopper. Occasionally, he will get a sack for us, but primarily, he's a block shedder. 86 block shed compared to his best pass rush move, 74, and that's probably actually getting a boost. Sweat is going to be the backup when it comes to run stopping. Casey Palmer, as mentioned, he's going to be the backup for the interior pass rush with the 81 power moves, though he's very serviceable as a run stopper as well, 78. But finding that number one guy, the do-it-all DT, that's been someone I've been looking for a while. As for off-ball, Hartwell, fantastic linebacker, just hasn't seen that much playing time. Stockton, amazing. We have a great backup in Oliver. And then we got Hodgins, a great season for him. We do need some backup linebackers, though I typically fill those out with UDFAs. As for the corners, we are pretty solid with our top three. Devontae Johnson is someone else I'd be looking to trade, and I would like to find another corner to be a backup for the outside. A lot of times last year when we had either Newsome or St. Juste get injured, we had to move our safety and Edwards to corner because we don't really have a backup outside corner. That's not a major need for us. If it's sitting there for us, we will take it. But I'm really happy with our top three. We could bring in something with Devontae Johnson, and then that would give Crowley a little bit more opportunity to see the field. Now, obviously, we moved on from one of our safeties in Shepard, still looking for that free safety, the over-the-top roaming, cover ground as quickly as possible. Strong safety, we are good with Tyler Edwards. We've got our kicker. We do need a punter. And this free agent class looks like it might be a good one. Ragnow the top, we could essentially redo the Batonio signing, bringing in Frank Ragnow, who might actually give us a couple of years, though he doesn't have much interest. There's Ronnie Stanley at the top, Tyreek Hill. That would be a really good slot receiver signing for a 1-year deal. Is it something we go with? I don't know, we'll see. There's Ramczyk, Tank Dell is available. That might be an interesting slot kind of guy for us. Kyle Duggar, he's more of a strong safety, but we'll take a look at our options. Yeah, there's a lot of pretty interesting guys here. So let's go according to positions of need. So if we're looking for guys who have the most agility, which is kind of that big play kind of element, get him underneath, make some plays after the catch. Now he is looking for a 3-year deal at age 33. I'm definitely not interested in that, but he has a lot of interest in coming to the team. Now he would be a mentor for us. His injury rating is not fantastic, but I'm interested with the amount of money we have here. We could try to bring in Tyreek Hill for a more expensive 1-year deal and just try to have a little bit of fun here in our title defense. So we'll make it $19 million for 1 season. His expectation is 16.5. So we'll see if he is interested in that offer. And surprisingly, it does actually put us at the top of his list. So then moving to our other need for the offense at center, Frank Ragnow has 9 offers. He's 31 years old, a 91 overall. But then it's a pretty steep drop off, and there really aren't any centers who have much interest in playing with us. We could look at guard and see if we want to shift someone down. Typically, that's going to lower their overall. So you have someone like Bergeron here, who's 27, 77. That'd probably put him around a 75 at center. Over on the right-hand side, gonna be pretty similar with someone like Jamari Sawyer. He has potential. He's a power style guy, so he's a scheme fit. Maybe he gets a start at center. Maybe he's going to be that serviceable backup for us. So we will offer him a 1-year deal. We'll entice him a little bit more with a higher salary. Make it 1 year, $5 million. I would imagine that should be a pretty easy signing, considering we have double the offer, apparently, than the Chargers. So then the other big need earlier on, well, we have DT and we have potentially safety. At DT, no one very high overall. There is Benton, and he has some strength to his game. A little bit of, honestly, he kind of looks very much like Castaneda. He's looking for 16, nearly 16.5 mil per season. Not for that skill set. There is Grady Jarrett, though he's seen a lot of regression, but maybe it'd be the most balanced. Him as well as Leonard Williams. Both would be a 1-year stopgap situation. At worst, this is a mentor spot, and it could help out a lot of our players. Grady Jarrett. He may start depending on what the draft holds for us, but I would like to have some insurance at that spot. Grady Jarrett provides that. So we're going to bump up the bonus, make this a $10 million deal. Because that interest level is in the yellow, we'll make that offer as well. And that puts us as the only offer and hopefully a quick signing. So then to our other need at safety. A lot of the guys here at free are on the older side. There was a strong safety in Kyle Duggar. Now, we have flexibility with Edwards. Duggar, he's also on the older side. He's already 31. Wow, seasons have flown by. Star dev. He's got that over-the-top ability, but nothing that different than what we had with Shepard. So there doesn't really appear to be a lot of guys matching what we're looking for. And honestly, I think that's going to be it here for us. I don't think there is many other moves we need to make right now. We obviously still have a good bit of cap, 45, but a lot of these guys here, they're on the older side, and they're not much different than guys that we already have. We kept around a lot of our starters from last season, and they worked out pretty well for us. So let's go through these 3 offers and see who we get, and I'll decide after one quick go. And we sign all 3. So open free agency goes pretty well for us. Jamari Sawyer at worst, He's going to be someone who rivals Clifton for that starting spot again with his injury problem, or maybe he has to start at center. Give us some flexibility there. Tyreek Hill, he's going to come in as a mentor for our receivers and probably get that, or he's definitely going to get the starting spot at the slot. See what's in the draft, and maybe someone might be able to rival for some playing time, maybe as that second slot guy whenever we do go with a 4 spread. Also, we had that other guy who might need a little bit of some playing time as well. So this was all about flexibility. Grady Jarrett, a DT, again, maybe starter, maybe just that mentor. But now for at least planning for the big event of the offseason, the NFL draft. Here are all of our picks we have slated. Round one, obviously last in the first round. We have 2 round 2s, 2 round 3s, 2 round 4s. We have 3 round 5s, a 6, and 2 7s. We do not need all of these picks. The team is very well built as it is, with a key few weaknesses. So what I'm thinking is there is one player that might be worthy of us trading up, and it would be a pretty big trade. We have been talking about trying to find that DT, that #1 guy, the do-it-all option for, honestly, I'm pretty sure this entire series. We brought in Castaneda, and he's solid, but he's not that guy. Julius Freeman, he might be, but he's projected top 5. Out of USC, he's 6'2", 297, 22 years old, listed as a power rusher. He runs a 40 in less than 5 seconds, has 35 to 36 bench reps. He's number 2 or number 3 in his vert. He's a pretty solid broad jump, though didn't do great at it in his college pro day. He's got athleticism everywhere. And on top of that, he's got a whole bunch of A attributes here: awareness, play rec, power moves, finesse moves, hit power, tackle, maybe even impact block. The only concern we have with Julius Freeman is he's injury prone. Injury is a D to an F. Now, we did obviously sign Grady Jarrett, so there's a backup plan, but also this is a top 5 prospect, and we only have one first rounder, and it's the very last pick in the first round. And at least if we trust the mock drafts here, Julius Freeman is expected to go with the 2nd pick. So we would essentially have to trade into that first spot or send maybe a DT to the Commanders. That's a possibility. If we decide not to go with that trade, the next option for us that still would probably require a trade up would be someone like Paul Beckham. He's a run stopper out of Georgia. He's 6'2", 317, 22 years old. Again, he runs actually a faster 40, bench reps, slightly more, still a great athlete. It's just the attributes, they're a step down. Though you don't have to worry at much about injury. A to B there. Awareness, play rec, power moves, block shedding, and impact block, plus stamina, those are all a B. Maybe hit power, tackling is an A, finesse moves are a C. So you're still going to get that dual ability guy with Paul Beckham. It's just you don't have those A's. Now, there are a couple options at left and right, and if you're looking for someone on the smaller side of a DT, though you could get him later on, you have Carlos Bates around 2 to 3, though the talent is round 1 to 2 out of LSU. He has the smaller frame. He's 6'4", 288, 22 years old, but he comes with the speed, he comes with the power. He's just not very agile. The 20-yard shuttle, not great, but he does have some A attributes here. A, injury, tackle, stamina, pursuit, and play rec, with B, awareness, block shed, power moves, hit power, and impact. Again, don't care about the finesse. I don't want a finesse rusher. We need the power. There are too many agile offensive linemen, not enough power. Over on the right-hand side, there is Connor Love out of South Carolina. 6'3", 317, another 22-year-old. He is a run stopper. Still, he has the speed, he has the strength. This time, the 3-cone and the 20-yard, not as good. Skill-wise, though, A, impact, tackle, stamina, with B, awareness, play rec, block shedding, power moves, pursuit, injury, hit power, and again, don't care about the finesse. Those two are very close. They're probably both sitting at the end of round 2 or so. Now for free safety, it's extremely light. There is Julius Lofton, a round 1 prospect. And we're not certain that even the cover ratings are that good with the range of A to C. The only one that we know for certain what that zone is that's at least doable would be someone like Jake Schwartz. 23 years old, out of Bama. I believe we talked about him midway. He's just not that fast, over-the-top kind of guy, at least the top-end speed. He has some decent athleticism everywhere else. No man coverage, has some good awareness. Play rec, though, not good. He could catch the ball, but is he really going to be that different than Hunter, the guy who was backing up last year and might be in line to start this year? I don't really think so. And for strong safety, if we wanted to move Edwards back to free, I mean, we've got a couple options here. There's Joe Brothers, around 2 to 3, who's 6'1", 196, out of Oregon, 22. Again, just doesn't quite have that top end speed, but overall a pretty solid athlete. But there is no man coverage there, so he would have to be a free safety for us, and again, just doesn't have that rangy kind of game. But I did mention I would like to, if it was sitting there, find a depth corner for us who could play on the outside. And I have a couple of interesting options here late on. Jose Jones, 6'3", 201, 22 years old, out of Houston. He has some phenomenal speed for his size, though he can't quite jump. It's interesting. He does have C for both zone and man, a block shed, be catching. This is a slot guy that we might be able to develop on the outside. He just does not quite have the press. And then we have who might be my favorite prospect I've seen at a cornerback spot, just for the sheer craziness of it, and Quincy Chisholm. 6'5", 207, he played at Temple. He's 22 years old. He's not the fastest guy. Runs about a mid 6'5". No bench reps really whatsoever. He's not a great athlete, but the skill set is extremely intriguing here. A press, B man, B to D zone. The zone might be low, but he just looks so interesting again at a whopping 6'5" at corner. He's a day 3 guy and someone that I would love to possibly take a shot on. So overall, this is a very interesting class. I don't think we've talked about offensive linemen yet, so let's run through that real quick. There are some decent options. A couple later round guys, someone like Paul Schumer, who could be a depth guy. He's agile, not necessarily matching up with our power, but it is an option. Over on the right hand side, there is Stoudemire, another agile guy, round 2 to 3. A 2 to 3 guy in Cameron Mills, who is a power guy. Could we get a guard, move him to center? Possibilities, because at center, the only power guy you really have here is Gaines. He's around 1 to 2. Then you got to drop down to day 3. That's not starting caliber. We could potentially start someone who's an agile guy and just continue to develop him with some power if he has that ability. There is Ben Carvey around 3 to 4, and he might have some starting caliber, though does he match our scheme? That's the question. 30 bench reps. He has A for awareness, impact, run block finesse, lead, and pass block finesse. But he does not have great power attributes. C pass block power and C to D run block power. I still think this is a really good bang for your buck situation, and we can bring him in. Doesn't mean he has to start. He might sit for a year, especially with us having Soliard now. But overall, I think this is going to be a draft that is going to require us to move around to specifically target players we want. Julius Freeman, he would be a fantastic option if we could bring him in. Though honestly, Paul Beckham, he might be the safer option, though again, you're just not having that fully rounded player because he could stay on the field a lot more. Though he reminds me of Castaneda when we drafted him. So with that, it's time to get the draft underway. Now, obviously, we know the guy that we want. The expectation is he goes to the Commanders here at 2. The Lions are at 1. Would they be willing to make a trade? And if so, what would it cost? Well, we would be looking at an absolutely insane haul here with the Lions. Greg Newsome, 3 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks. I just don't think that is anywhere near where we would be looking to make a move. So we are not trading up to spot 1. So with that, the Detroit Lions, with the first overall pick in the 2027 NFL Draft, select Ben Williams, left outside linebacker, Auburn. Now with spot 2, it's the Commanders. Now obviously we know he was projected to go here. The Commanders, though, they have Jonathan Allen in 89. They also have Daron Payne in 85. You would think they wouldn't be interested in DT. They have no interest in team needs for DT, but both of these players are 30 plus years old. They might be looking for their guy for the future. But if we were to make a trade here, these are the two options they're giving us. Ekwonu, a 2028 and current first round pick, plus 2029s, a current 3rd, and a future 7th. It's better than for the first overall pick, but I'm not giving up Ekwonu. So then our next option becomes this. The first rounder in the next 3 years. Both of our second round picks and a second round pick for next season. So we would be giving up a whole lot for a player who could potentially just be injured the whole season. My question would be, what is their interest in maybe a different defensive tackle that we have? We'll still give them the second for next year, and we'll give them our first for this year and the next 2 years. Again, not quite sure how long this series is going to go, so we may not necessarily need those selections, especially with how the team has been built so far. But do they have interest in maybe a Grady Jarrett? And while they do have some interest, it's not enough. They would still require more. But how much are we willing to give up for Julius Freeman? A top 5 projected player, doesn't lock in that he's a hidden dev. He has a lot of really good attributes for sure. It's just the injury rating, D to an F. That could be really bad. We might not even be able to use him because he's just constantly injured. And we've already had guys like Clifton who had a similar injury rating coming out of college. And we've seen how injury prone he's been. This is a guy that's going to be getting double, maybe triple teamed every single play. Injury might move us off here. So I think with that, we play a little bit of some money ball here. We'll definitely take a look to see at what the ratings of the DT are at the end. But expecting he goes here, the Washington Commanders, with the second pick in the 2027 NFL Draft, go with Julius Freeman. DT out of USC, they have their guy for the future. Moving forward, I want to get close to the end of the top 10 here. We've got the Cardinals with pick 3. They go with cornerback Darren Bowers, TCU. Buccaneers, a rival here for us. They go with right outside backer Devin Philpin, Ole Miss. Then the Tennessee Titans at 5. They select left tackle Mac Bramble, Tennessee. And the Browns at spot 6 select first quarterback Zach Klein out of Syracuse. Now, did they already have a quarterback with the last name of Klein? I know they've had just about every quarterback ever, but I feel like they had a Klein. As for the Rams with the 7th selection, they go with left tackle Jamison Durant, USC. That's 2 USC guys at least in the top 10 here. Bears at pick 8. They go with another quarterback, Adrian Durham, Michigan State. Now we got the Packers here at 9. Before the Saints arrive, which would be pick 10, this might be a spot in which a trade up would be a little bit more doable. And while it's definitely lighter, it's still a big trade. Ekwonu, definitely not going to happen. A first round pick in the next 3 years, plus a second next year and a 6th this year, or Greg Newsome. So it's still pretty steep. I think we keep moving a little bit. And honestly, we might just go to our pick here and go BPA. Another rival here for us in the Saints. They select right tackle Trent Banks. Now the Minnesota Texans, as it seems like all their guys have gone to Minnesota, at spot 11, they select Paul Beckham, DT out of Georgia. I think he had some really good attributes. We'll take a look at him as well. But I think they were very comparable to someone we could get later. Talking about playing Moneyball, we're playing Moneyball right here. Now, one of the edge guys that we like to could play DT, Connor Love. He's expected to go in 22 more picks. So that would put him still available for us with our 32nd pick in the first round. And we've gotten all the way down to spot 43 before we found someone else that we're interested here in Jake Schwartz. So I think we're at a spot we could just go BPA. So let's get to our spot, pick 32, first round. And at true DT, there's no one we're looking for here, so it's really, guys, to move to DT. Over on the left-hand side, Carlos Bates is still available, the second best. And it's really going to be between him as well as Connor Love, who's also second best available. So let's compare the two one more time. 6'3", 313, 22 years old. The bench reps are going to be a lot closer to Beckham that we looked at earlier, though maybe a little bit more speed. You're not going to have as much of a vert 3-cone or 20-yard shuttle, a little bit less in terms of A attribute ratings. As for Carlos Bates, 6'4", 288, again, he's going to have that slightly smaller frame, actually more than slightly, it's still around 25 pounds. The speed, pretty solid, slightly less strength, but you're going to have a little bit more agility in there. And he has more A ratings. He's a round 2 to 3 talent with the actual round 1 to 2. This could be a pretty good spot to take him to ensure we don't miss out on him. And I think of the two available players, I'm going to go with the lighter option. I think Carlos Bates is going to be better out the go here. More likely to be a hidden dev with the talent higher than projected. Carlos Bates is a hidden dev, 90 strength. That was the floor I had there for him. 78 speed, 86 acceleration. If he could shed some blocks, we're looking at a guy who's going to be playing a whole lot in the backfield. So we ended up talking a whole lot about a different DT than we ended up taking. It really came down to that injury rating. I've seen so many guys miss a whole lot of time with not even a bad injury rating. And I couldn't afford trading away everything for a guy who may have not stayed on the field. So we're going to play a little bit of Moneyball throughout the remainder of this draft. Our next pick is at 11th in the second round. So we're just going to jump to it. We're going BPA and just taking whatever is sitting there for us. Now, still spots of need. We do need another offensive lineman, whether it's starting or it's going to be that next guy up kind of mentality. At left guard, well, we've got a couple different options here, none of which are necessarily power. At center, Ben Carvey still sitting there. I would look to take him maybe with the later second round pick just to ensure, because I think his rating is higher than the projected. And at right guard, Stoudemire still there, but again, he's an agile type. Now for safeties, Jake Schwartz is here, and maybe he could be that guy what we're looking for. The only other option, Joe Brothers. These two might be fairly comparable. 6'1", a little less than 200. So you got the height with the other guy. Similar weight. Jake Schwartz, 23, runs a 4.53. Though overall a really good athlete. Awareness is good. Play rec, not so much at a D. And I feel like play rec is better for zone, awareness for man. So those don't quite necessarily align. But as for Brothers, who does have the better height, speed, very comparable, more strength. Overall, I feel like Brothers might be the better athlete. But again, the play rec, not great. Awareness, we're not even certain on. Injury is B to a D. And going back to Schwartz, it's B to a C. So the injury rating at its worst could be better for Schwartz. And overall, a very similar kind of player. What is the scouting report? Player notes here. Bone crushing hits. Struggles to find the ball in the air, though. He runs through the whistle. Looks to strip the ball. Good discipline. Brothers also delivers crushing hits. He's a savvy defender with the ball in the air, so he's more likely to make plays on it, though potentially has the lower catching ability. Has a good motor, rips the ball, good discipline. So really comes down to, while the ball is in the air, Joe Brothers shows a more aptitude of making a play on it. The ratings are all looking very similar, but the overall athleticism better with brothers with better prototype size. And he's definitely a free, does not provide much man. And if we're looking for safety, which we do need, we don't have depth at that spot either. So at worst, this is a second round pick for depth or rotational purposes. We have a starter for the offensive line, and my number one option I think is Ben Carvey, and he should still be available with that next pick. So going Moneyball status here, BPA for us I think is Joe Brothers. We'll take him in the second round. He's a hidden dev, 87 speed, so we're still lacking that speed at free safety, but the acceleration is 92. It might make up for it. We have a competition at the minimum for free safety. And from there, jumping to our later second round pick, I think we finish off with our three biggest needs. We went DT, we went safety, now we need to go offensive line. And I think the best possible player for us, just looking at all possible starting caliber players, is going to be Ben Carvey. He's around 3 to 4 projection. Again, I think he just might be better than that. He's overall a pretty good athlete, doesn't have top tier strength, but he'll be getting help on both sides of him. We don't have to worry about any of the finesse style play. He's got that lockdown, all A's. But the power, I think, will be at a doable level. Plus the pass block isn't bad at all, it's a B. Awareness is A, injury is a B, so we don't have to worry about that either. I think Ben Carvey is the best option for us. And then we have a whole bunch of picks that we are gonna have to figure out what to do with. But Ben Carvey is the next selection, our first non-hidden dev. He's normal. 84 strength, 86 acceleration, whether he starts or he's that serviceable backup. Either way, I think this is a good spot to pick him up. But now we are left with still a whole lot of picks. 2/3, 2/4, 3/5, a 6, and 2/7. We do not need all of these picks, though we can start to use these picks to look to replace some of our more aging depth players. So spots where we could use some depth, well, we need some off-ball linebackers, that's for sure. Maybe some edge rushers. We could look for those corners. Again, there were a couple corners that I do like. They're day 3, so we're gonna have to wait probably a couple more picks here. I don't think any of the guys we liked are going to go earlier than I was anticipating. Quincy Chisholm maybe could, and he's someone that I would consider taking with one of those 4th round picks. As for the other option in Jose Jones, I don't think he's going to be more than a day 3. Probably take him with that first 5th round pick. So we're pretty open for opportunities here. And in terms of linebackers, we're in the middle of the 3rd round here. And there is an interesting guy here in Zach Sullivan out of Michigan. He's 6'4", 244, 21 years old. We need help, again, for depth. Speed is not too bad. Running a 4.5, that's very serviceable as a linebacker. Some of the more slower of our linebackers, but still pretty solid. He's got strength to his game. Pretty decent 20, 3-cone, not great. But he's got potential. The block shedding is there, tackle is there. He has a lot of good ratings. There's some windows there. The zone either way should be pretty serviceable. Man, we'll see. But I think this is actually a pretty good selection here for us. So we'll go with Zach Sullivan, a normal dev player with 87 speed. That's actually still really good for us. 84 acceleration. He's got some strength. That is going to be a really solid linebacker for us, who's now on a 4-year deal. Now here with our second pick in the 3rd round, I'm not finding all too much that I'm interested in. With these 4th round selections, I think we could go after someone like Chisholm and then Jones. But with this 3rd, I'm just not seeing much that I like, so I think it's time to trade away a pick. And I think what we're gonna do here is go with a bundle for the future. We're gonna give away our current 3, but we're gonna get a 3, 5, and a 7 next year from the Eagles. And of course, as we get to our next selection in the 4th round, Jose Jones does actually end up going right before us to Baltimore. So that takes away one of our cornerback options. I am hoping that the other cornerback that we were looking at is still here, and indeed he is. So Quincy Chisholm is going to be the selection. 6'5", 207, 22 years old, out of Temple. Doesn't have that top end speed, but the skill set looks very intriguing. And at worst, he's going to be essentially a replacement for Johnson. Maybe just needs to develop a little bit, but I'm very interested here in Chisholm. He's a normal dev. I expected more. 88 speed, 89 acceleration. He doesn't have the strength. We didn't expect him to, but that is an interesting pick, and I'm really excited to see what those ratings end up being. But we also have the very next pick, and we do not have any round 3 to 4s left here on our big board. So with a lot of these selections, I'm not too sure how many more we're actually going to pick. Now, Timmy Aldridge may be a little bit more interesting. A 6'3", 225 physical style receiver. He's out of Clemson. He's out of Clemson. And the physicals aren't awful. They're nothing spectacular. He doesn't have great acceleration or agility or even change direction. But, you know, serviceable for a backup. Don't have to worry about injury. That is an A. Maybe has a little bit of some short route running, but he's not really a route runner. He's got solid hands with some pretty good release. And then getting down the list, we have a run stopper here at left end. Would be a backup DT with potential for some power moves. Now this might be an interesting pick here. He's 6'5", 310, 22 years old, out of Cincinnati. He's not super fast, but he has some strength. Skill set wise, injury B to D, has some decent tackling. Play rec is there. We know he has the block shedding, with the power moves being A to a C. This could be a solid player. Someone who might not stick around that much longer. Luke Bernard. Welcome to the Panthers. Normal dev, 87 strength. I expected that to be definitely higher. 78 acceleration with 67 speed. Now with our 5th round selection here, or one of our 5th round selections, Will Clark. We need depth now for strong safety. He's 6'2", 224, 23 years old, out of Florida State. He runs close to a 4.6, but he's got some strength to his game with a pretty good 3-cone and 20-yard shuttle. B, man coverage. That is integral for our strong safety in this scheme. We need man coverage there. Tackling and hit power needs some work, but this is a pretty good option here for depth safety. And again, we would have to switch our safeties around. Clark going to strong, and then our other draftee going to free. But Will Clark looks like a good option. Normal dev, 88 speed, 90 acceleration, 69 strength. Could be a pretty solid backup safety. And following that, we're going to make another trade. We don't need all these picks we have left. So we're going to offer up our next 2 5th round picks plus a 7th round pick, leaving us with a 6 and a 7, I do believe. But I think the best offer is a 4th and a 7 next year from the Patriots. And at this point, it's actually giving us a number for it rather than it just being to be determined. So that's fun. We'll trade with the Patriots. So now deep into the 6th round, nearly the 7th round pick, and we actually have apparently 2 7th round picks, though I could have sworn I traded one of those. Madden just might be glitching. Either way, I think this would be a better spot to go after Timmy Aldridge and replace one of those older backups that we have on roster. So Timmy Aldridge, a normal dev with 89 speed, 88 acceleration. We'll see what he can do. And indeed, I was correct. We did just have the Mr. Irrelevant pick here. Do we have anyone left who is projected draftable on our board here? It's looking like all UDFA projecteds. And I think we're going to go with Peter Hamilton as our final selection. He's a left guard power archetype out of UCF. 6'3", 301, 22 years old. He's not the strongest guy, but overall it's a pretty solid combine. Skill set, it's raw, but he has some good starting ratings for just being a backup, and we have to fill out our backup roster anyway for offensive linemen, and we can do that with a 4-year deal here. So Peter Hamilton, Mr. Irrelevant. And after suggesting to move up to get one of the top projected players, instead we pick up a whole lot of picks, and it overall looks to be a really good draft class here for us. So let's break it down. We start with Carlos Bates, a 74 at left end, though he will not be staying at left end. Instead, he goes to DT where he goes up to a 76, and we update that number. He actually takes Grover Stewart's number, and he's going to come in with a balanced group of ratings here. Block shedding and power moves, both 74. I don't necessarily see a starter day one here. We might have him split time with Grady Jarrett and probably have Bates maybe as the rush DT, Jarrett as the base package DT, so that way he's getting some playing time, especially with that hidden dev we need to unlock. I was hoping for a little bit better, but obviously we waited, and we'll see what those other options were for us at DT. But as for Joe Brothers, the guy we drafted at strong to play potentially some free, and by potential I mean that's where he's going to play. He is drafted at a 76 overall. But moving him over to free and updating that number, he actually will stay at the 76. And the ratings, I mean, they're not bad. He just didn't quite have that speed I was looking for, but that's something we might be able to develop. He's got the acceleration, so that part is good. Pursuit, good angle as well. He still has some tackle and hit power at free, which is great. Pretty decent awareness to start off with. Concern, though, is the injury. It's an 82. Now, as for the center in Ben Carvey, he's a 73 normal dev. And out of the box, we've got some pretty decent finesse ratings here. Power is a little bit light, plus the strength is a little bit low. I see Carvey being that serviceable backup this year, working on those power moves. Lead block is still really good. Impact is pretty good as well. He could be a starter on a team here. He's the 28th ranked center. But for this scheme, he does not quite fit, so we're going to work him towards that scheme. And as mentioned, he'll probably be the backup this season. Now, one of the guys I was not expecting to pick up, off-ball backer here, Zach Sullivan, is a true 71 overall. I'm fine with the number he came with here. And block shedding looks really good. Needs to work on the coverage ability, but he's a backup run stopper here for us, and that is a really good selection. Now, as for the wild card in Quincy Chisholm, he's a true 69, getting the bump up to a 70. And he very much is just a man style. So essentially, he's a replacement straight up for Johnson, who we will probably end up trading in the preseason. But all in all, I'm really happy with that selection here. We didn't have to take him early on, and perfect scheme fit. Now, as for Luke Bernard, another edge guy who we are definitely moving to DT at 6'5", 310. And after moving him to DT and rocking him with a number 0, he looks to be someone that might develop and eventually replace Sweat. That is pretty much what this looks like here. There's a little bit of some power moves there. Sweat has a little bit of the moves, but mostly he's going to be a developmental run stopper. Now for Will Clark, the safety we took later, he's a 66 overall, and he definitely needs some development at safety. He was drafted at free. He's going to be strong. But with that, the overall stays the same. Number does change, and we're just going to have to work on that zone coverage a little bit. Man, though, it's in a good spot. Probably work with him as a hybrid safety. Now, towards the end of our draft, we took a shot here on Timmy Aldridge, knowing he's not much of a route runner. He comes in 69 overall, 70 with the boost, rocking a decent number. And yeah, everything but the route running looks really, really good. So we'll see if he could work on that throughout his time here. Injury sitting at a good spot. Honestly, he could just be someone who's one of those big slot type players. We'll see how well he fits in there. We'll give him opportunities. And then as for Mr. Irrelevant, it is Peter Hamilton, a 63 overall. We'll see if he makes that final roster. He looks to be a true left tackle, as he's primarily a pass blocker. So we'll make that adjustment, and we'll see if he makes that final roster as well. But of course, we have to check a couple players here, Julius Freeman being one of them. And he comes in at a true 78 overall. He is a hidden dev, and the ratings... And coming out of the box, yeah, he looks good. Strength, though, lower than I expected. He's got the power moves, equal about finesse and block shed. Injury was the concern, and it's a 79. So we'll have to keep an eye on the career of Julius Freeman and see how often these injuries end up cropping up, because that was the reason we decided not to take him. Then jumping down the board, a good few picks here. Paul Beckham, he went to the Texans. 74 overall, pretty similar overall to the DT or guy we moved to DT that we ended up taking, also hidden dev. And yeah, these two players, nearly identical. Good injury rating though for Beckham. But we took a guy about half a round later. So we save ourselves a little bit of money in the process for an extremely similar player. I am perfectly happy with that. Now, one of the other safeties we were looking at was Jake Schwartz. He ended up getting picked up by the Vikings, 73 true overall, normal dev at 23, and yep, very comparable to brothers who we took. So all in all, I think we actually did really well drafting and made pretty smart decisions. We obviously didn't get the top end guy with that DT, but the injury just looked extremely concerning. But that does officially bring our offseason to a close. We found a couple key guys. You know, we needed to fill out 3 spots. We got a guy here in Ben Carvey from the draft. We also signed Jamari Sawyer, who will be getting this start at center. We're just going to say that's where we put him throughout training camp, and he worked a whole lot at that spot. DT was another spot. We signed Grady Jarrett, he's 81. We kept around Jerome Sweat. We also then drafted Carlos Bates. So we have a pretty jam-packed group here at DT. And honestly, maybe someone like Grady Jarrett could be traded. I mean, he was brought in to also be a mentor for us. That means that maybe while we do really enjoy Jerome Sweat, he could be traded as well because we have guys here who can develop and essentially play that same role. We've got options, which is always nice to have. We got at least one new depth backer here in Zach Sullivan. We'll fill out that group with UDFAs. We were looking for a new corner to add to the group to help be that outside corner. Not necessarily certain we found an outside corner, but Quincy Chisholm does at least replace someone like Duke Johnson, who we will look to trade away. And who knows, maybe Cash just gets another opportunity to play a little bit more on the outside. We then needed some help at safety as we moved on from Shepard. Both Hunter and Brothers will have that opportunity. Neither have the top end speed we're looking for. We have better acceleration with Brothers. Awareness is looking pretty similar, though the play rec, that is the concern with Brothers. Overall, the coverage is better with Hunter. We'll see how these two play. And it might just be a BPA kind of situation. Play that week by week and see who inevitably takes hold of that spot. Now, there was one move we did not make this offseason. That was punter. We'll announce that next time, so make sure you stick around. So until we start season 5, which will be on Wednesday, make sure you guys are hitting that bell icon on the bottom right or scrolling down, hit the sub button. They both do the exact same thing. And definitely make sure you tap the bell icon so you're notified of when these videos go live. Every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Plus we have the state-only challenge as well. Currently the Kentucky and Indiana. We'll see if they can make things happen, as that series is getting pretty close to an end, as well as they're approaching their season 5 as well. And then after that, we have 3 more state-only challenges to go through. We have some time left in this series, and then we're going to get college football and eventually the new Madden as well. So make sure you guys start leaving ideas for who you would like to see be our traditional franchise in the next Madden, and who you might like to see on college football as well. But until next time, where we start a new season, see a couple new faces, and go on a title defense. See you then.